ESRC, and UKRI and Innovate UK. It's the first time we've all come together to showcase and signpost opportunities for Horizon Europe. As I said, please use the chat feature to introduce yourself, and also Q&A for any questions. And we will have 2 dedicated Q&A opportunities throughout the event this afternoon. We're going to start. I know we're just waiting for Lord Leon Mendoza to join us for his introductory remarks, but I think we are going to get going. And I'd like to introduce Professor Christopher Smith. Professor Christopher Smith is the Executive Chair of the Arts and Humanities Research Council and is the International Champion for UK Research Innovation. So, Christopher, I'll hand over to you. You've got about 10 minutes, or up to 10 minutes, if that's okay.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you to all the organisers from across UKRI, Arts Humanities Research Council, ESRC, Economic Social Research Council, Innovate UK, and also colleagues from UKRI. And also a very, very warm thanks to DCMS for their support. And I can see, as people are introducing themselves in the chat, lots and lots of friends from across the horizon of cultural institutions with which we work at AHRC and at UKRI, independent research organisations and smaller organisations across the piece. Really brilliant to see everybody here. So we're at the start of the 7-year Horizon Europe framework. There's a budget of about £100 billion in this framework. It's a really exciting, very, very important opportunity for our research ecosystem. And we want our stakeholders to work collaboratively to promote arts and humanities opportunities to the creative and cultural sectors, but also to understand the potential barriers to participation. It's extraordinarily important for us to be well represented. And we know that Horizon Europe offers an enormously significant potential flow of income into our research ecosystem. Traditionally, just to give one example, Horizon Europe and European Research Council funds have been larger as a contribution to arts and humanities than the Arts and Humanities Research Council itself. And that's a real indication of the fact that our dual support system is almost a triple support system, with Horizon Europe being a key part. Now, we're working hard to ensure that the UK research and innovation community achieves maximum benefit from participating in Horizon Europe. And just a few things to say about UKRI's activity. We have a proven track record in supporting European collaboration and European funding for UK researchers and innovators. We're a trusted source of guidance and advice for the research and innovation community through our extensive contacts within EU networks. And these are maintained by UKRO, by the UK national contact points, who act as both technical experts in programme committees and provide practical guidance to applicants. There's a Brussels office also for Innovate UK, and Innovate UK Edge policy teams in UKRI, the 7 disciplinary research councils, Research England and Innovate UK are all working together. We leverage our Brussels presence to maintain an active connections to UK entities to engage with the European Commission and potential partners across Europe. UKRI partners with the Knowledge Transfer Network, KTN, and other stakeholders to promote the research and innovation opportunities for the UK and the EU and broker opportunities for collaboration. And we're even helping European researchers come to the UK by working with the UK government and the national academies to deliver the Global Talent Visa. So there's a great deal of expertise and leadership that is at play here to support the way the programme develops. We are providing expertise on programme committees, maintaining excellent relationships with EU research and innovation networks, and we'll be able also to take your concerns and feed them back in. So this is very much part of a conversation that we have. Now, I think what's really important about this session is that we in UKRI, and particularly AHRC, I think have a very, very clear view of the importance of an extended research ecosystem. We are working closely with many of you in the cultural and creative sectors in a variety of ways. The Creative Industries Clusters Programme, which is delivering extraordinary opportunities in a variety of parts of the creative industry sector. We have the Towards a National Collection Programme, which brings significant UK expertise into digital cultural heritage. And this is all contributing to the competitiveness and the value of our creative and cultural sectors. And we're very, very keen to showcase the extraordinary amounts of research and innovation that are happening across the creative and cultural sectors. And we regard you as absolutely part of the research ecosystem, not as outside it, but in it, and as often as absolutely central to the best things that are happening across the sector. The collaborations with the universities, but also your own distinctive values are really important. And I think that there's a lot of scope for us to do more together and to support you from the UKRI, UKRO perspective to participate fully in Horizon Europe. So we're looking to support new applicants coming through, including non-IRO cultural and creative sector organisations, to lead applications, be partners in opportunities from across the funding programmes, or to work with the IROs to create new partnerships and new collaborations. We are looking to find UK organisations to sign up to the partnering tools which have been set up and to initiate dialogue with the UK national contact points and with UKRI. We're here to help, so please get in touch with us. Already, AHLC has European bilateral and multilateral activities, such as with the Deutsche Forschungsgemeinschaft, the German Research Foundation, also with the Irish Research Council. Some really exciting work has been announced through a series of recently funded programs, and participation in HERA and humanities in the European research area. We've also got some very strong links with the Joint Programme Initiative on Cultural Heritage, JPICH. These have resulted in vibrant UK-EU research collaborations, and we're hoping that this is the fertile ground of partnership from which new applications for Horizon Europe will come. So we'd love for our own award holders and for new partners and our wider stakeholder communities to feel they can apply for these funding opportunities. But we do know that you will be finding difficulties and challenges, partly because of just finding this a very, very difficult process to get into. And there may be other barriers to participation that we're unaware of. So this session is in part the beginning of a dialogue to understand how we can make the European Research Council landscape more transparent, more clear and evident to you, but also what are the kinds of issues and the kinds of questions that you want us to be taking into the dialogues that we're having. Now, I think I see a phone number towards the bottom, which I'm hoping is Lord Mendoza, Neil Mendoza, and if that's right, it's really exciting to be able to introduce this alongside Lord Neil Mendoza on behalf of the Department of Culture, Media and Sport. HRC and DCMS have developed over the course of the past couple of years an extraordinarily close relationship. We are mapping our activities against each other's capacities, and I think there's some fantastic opportunities for co-working. Neil will speak about some of those, I know, in his introductory remarks, but I think there is an opportunity for really powerful collaboration here, which is not just about the immediate spending review, but is about a long-term relationship to build trust between us and build capacity for our extraordinarily successful cultural and creative sector. So it's a pleasure if Neil is there to introduce him, Provost of Oriel College, Oxford, Commissioner of Cultural Recovery and Renewal, Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport. After 4 years as a non-exec director at DCMS, Neil led the Mendoza Review of Museums in England in 2017. He's chair of the Landmark Trust and the Illuminated River Foundation. He is also overseas and having some connection challenges, but I hope, Neil, you're there and I'll hand over to you.
I think I'm here. Am I here? Can you hear me, Christopher?
You are here. I can hear you. Welcome, Neil.
Okay, I'm on the phone. I can't seem to connect on the video, so I'm very sorry, everybody. But first of all, just Christopher, thank you very much for those warm words of welcome, and especially the things that you said about the close collaboration between our organisations. And the first thing I want to say is I just want to pass on my thanks on behalf of the Department of Digital, Culture, Media and Sport to UKRI and AHRC for helping to convene this session. You're right, we are working extremely close together, so I'm delighted I can join. I also think we should acknowledge the Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy for all their work in the background to help ensure that UK organisations have access to Horizon Europe funding. And as you pointed out, it is the largest research and innovation programme in the world with a budget of over 95 billion. And it provides funding to support to researchers and innovators, ranging from individuals right up to large-scale businesses. And I missed some of what you said because of the connection issues. So if I repeat myself, I'm so sorry to be boring. But the point is that now UK has associated membership, which actually means that UK organisations will be eligible to access grant funding under the Horizon Europe programme, and also be able to form collaborative partnerships within the EU and with other international partners. As I understand it, Horizon will be at least 20% bigger than previous EU framework programmes, so it really is a massive opportunity for UK scientists, researchers and businesses. And as the government's Commissioner for Cultural Recovery and Renewal, I've witnessed over the last almost year and a half the huge and devastating effects, challenges faced by the cultural and creative sectors. But the sector has adapted and it has tried to find new ways to create and to engage with audiences, both local and global. And as you know, AHRC, in partnership with DCMS, has recently published a report called Boundless Creativity on the role of innovation in shaping cultural experience over the last months. And it's tried to create an evidence base to inform the recovery of the sector. And I co-chaired that with your previous chair of AHRC, Professor Andrew Thompson. And delegates might want to look at the Boundless Creativity report, which is published on gov.uk. And the report recs, I suppose, really lead on the assertion that R&D has such a pivotal role and practical role to play in understanding the challenges and embracing the opportunities for the creative and cultural sectors. And that crucially, our sectors are such an important and rapidly growing part of the economy that R&D to develop them must be taken really seriously. Our sectors are one of the fastest growing parts of the UK economy. The creative industry has contributed £116 billion per year. And pre-pandemic, we're growing at more than 5 times the rate of the overall economy, which is an astonishing statistic. They also account for almost 12% of UK service exports. And some of the things we noticed in our report, for example, is that depending on the sector you're in, you had very asymmetric responses to the pandemic. So if you were in the film, television or gaming world, you may well have had an extraordinarily busy year producing content. Another area which is of interest to us is the new access to global audiences for both small and large organizations. There's almost a land grab, if you like, to make sure that you can find your global audience and hang on to it. And many other things, for example, that we cover in the report, like live. So I don't really want to talk about that. What I want to talk about is this program, which is open to both organizations and individuals. And importantly, you don't have to have IRO, independent research organization status, which will allow smaller organizations to access research funding. So Horizon Europe is therefore a funding program that offers great opportunities for our sectors, for heritage, for arts, for creative industries to access research funding. And at DCMS, we hope this event and similar events in the future will provide applicants with tools to apply for these important schemes and meet the R&D government targets. Because as you know, the UK government is committed to increasing UK investment in R&D to 2.4% of GDP by 2027, which gets us up to a very significant number. And even this year, the research number that Bayes calculates is that we hope to invest £15 billion in R&D this financial year, which means that UK organisations will have access to more public funding than before, with the UK R&D spending the highest it's been for decades. So finally, I'll get off the phone, and I just really would like to thank everyone for attending. And please spread the word and encourage other colleagues and organisations to consider Horizon Europe funding. So back to you, Christopher.
Thank you very, very much, Neil. It's absolutely fantastic to hear from you. Very, very clear. And I second your point about the value of this cross-governmental support for research that really has the potential to make an enormous difference in this area. So thank you to DCMS, thank you to Bayes, and thank you to you, Neil. And I think Annie is going to pick straight up and take us into the next part of the session. Annie.
Yes, thank you very much. And I'm sure I kind of speak for everyone in really kind of thanking both Lord Mendoza and Christina Smith for really kind of inspiring words. And I think that's a really great start for our event today. And I think I'll just get started with my part of the presentation. Yes, obviously kind of welcome from my side as well. Obviously, we will start the kind of event today with a session on cluster 2, and I will explain a bit more about what that means kind of very soon. But my name is Annie, and I'm the UK national contact point for cluster 2, and that's a cluster called Culture, Creativity and Inclusive Society. I'm also joined by a colleague, Jamie Davies, today, who joins from the Arts and Humanities Research Council. We will have a kind of question and answer session at the end of the talk. So kind of, yeah, feel free to kind of ask questions throughout. And yeah, I think Jamie already kind of put this in the chat, but there is a hashtag UK in Horizon, and you can use that for kind of promotion and also just really kind of finding out more information about UK in Horizon, as it says. So let's get started with kind of our first presentation. European kind of framework programs are funding programs for research and innovation, and they each last for 7 years. And the current program, Horizon Europe, will run from 2021 until 2027. And this program has a budget of 95.5 billion euros. And this actually makes it the largest transnational research and innovation program. And work programs are published every year for the 7-year duration. So there is definitely a lot of opportunities coming up. And maybe just to explain, obviously, work programs, just list the kind of upcoming calls and information about them. To kind of briefly address UK eligibility, the UK is associating to Horizon Europe. So UK entities will have associated country status. And UK entities will also have virtually kind of equivalent participation rights to those from EU member states. And UK organizations can also lead projects as coordinators. So this is the kind of main structure of Horizon Europe. Obviously, there's a lot of information there if this is the first time that you're seeing this. But just to kind of briefly explain, Pillar 1 includes bottom-up opportunities. So we will hear more about this later on in a separate presentation today. And also some opportunities on research infrastructures are included in that first pillar. Pillar 3 focuses more on kind of market creating innovation. And this talk now focuses on the kind of second pillar in the middle, and that covers collaborative challenge-led funding. And it's also divided into clusters. So these are kind of like research teams. And we are obviously focusing on the kind of second cluster. So that's culture, creativity, and inclusive society. Kind of just to mention, whilst I'm showing this kind of a whole structure, that there is a kind of a contact point and support for each part of the program here. So you are always kind of encouraged to reach out to kind of ask for more information if you wish. I think just to kind of start off, presenting cluster 2, obviously I want to kind of highlight some of the benefits that you can have when you kind of participate in collaborative funding, like the cluster funding in European funding. So it does provide you with an opportunity to solve kind of global grand challenges through kind of the collaborative research and development. It also kind of provides you with an opportunity to build partnerships internationally, but also domestically, and also with many low and middle income countries as well. You can increase the kind of visibility of your organization at EU and global level. And you can also access cutting edge research, technologies, infrastructure, and talent. Like I mentioned, UK Association enables UK organizations to continue to influence international standards, regulations, and research policies. EU projects also have a high funding rate, so that's up to 100% of eligible costs. This kind of Horizon Europe is a guaranteed and predictable source of funding. So we do know that topics will be coming up in the kind of these themes that we present today for the next 7 years. And finally, the UK has historically been successful in EU funding. So kind of out of the 987 million euros that was awarded under Societal Challenge 6. So that's the kind of predecessor of this cluster 2 that we're talking about today. 109.4 million euros went to the UK, and that's 11%. There are also 335 separate UK participations to the program. So just kind of to cover some of the basics of how to actually apply for this funding before we kind of present the actual opportunities available. Because this funding is collaborative, there are kind of some considerations as to how to kind of build the consortium to apply with. So legal entities in EU member states and also associated countries. So obviously the UK is one of those associated countries. They are automatically eligible to participate and also to be funded by the European Commission. Also, legal entities from low and middle income countries can participate and be funded if they are listed in this kind of document called the Horizon Europe Program Guide. So the kind of minimum number of partners that you need to be able to apply is 3 entities in 3 different countries. And regarding evaluation of proposals, course are evaluated on excellence, impact, and implementation. And each of these criteria is scored from 0 to 5. The general annexes are actually a really kind of useful resource if you've got some time to read. They include a lot of useful information, kind of including some more detail on these eligibility and admissibility conditions, because this is really just a summary. And I've actually also linked the online manual, which is again a useful kind of document to kind of really walk you through the process of applying to Horizon Europe. So all the way from kind of finding a call to then kind of the awarding of the grant and grant signature and grant management as well. So the applications are done online on this place called Funding and Tenders Portal. So you can see a kind of a photo on screen of what this looks like. So the website obviously contains kind of the open calls under the kind of search funding and tenders, but also a lot of kind of other useful information kind of on how to participate really, and also kind of the support available. And this is also actually where you can register as an expert. So you can kind of get experience by evaluating proposals. The actual submission kind of includes 2 parts. So part A refers to kind of the part that gets entered through the submission system in the Funding and Tenders Portal. And that kind of just includes some basic information about the application. And then part B is the narrative part. So there are 3 sections that correspond to an evaluation criterion. And the page limit for this kind of part B is 45 or 30 pages, depending on the kind of specific call that you apply to. European collaborative projects tend to be kind of large scale. So I just want to kind of highlight that they do obviously require the kind of resource to deliver them. This does depend a bit on whether you are coordinating a proposal or just taking part as a partner. And the coordinator obviously has a significant role, and admin resource really is essential, and also kind of financial administration as well, if you are coordinating. And not to kind of discourage anyone from applying before we even started, but I think I really want to kind of manage expectations, and just obviously let you know that success rates are generally quite low in European funding. It's kind of, that's just really to say that it's worth kind of putting in the time and effort to kind of really write and prepare your application to be the best that it can be, and also even kind of before that, just making sure that you are kind of choosing the right call, so that you then obviously have a higher chance of being funded if you're actually kind of proposing what the Commission is looking for in that specific call. But yeah, I think kind of moving from the negative to the positive. So I think my colleague Jamie will now kind of present some of the kind of actual calls that are coming up, and also some examples of previously successful projects to really kind of just show you how, just show you some examples of how it can be done.
Cheers, Annie. Thank you very much. So for today, really, the idea is to get a sense of the different aspects of Horizon Europe, and we will be doing a further events with DCMS and UKRI colleagues over the coming years, where we actually get to hear more from the successful EU-funded projects from our cultural and creative sectors. But just as a taste, we wanted to give you some examples from the world of heritage or museums and arts. So you can see here, and I put a link in the chat where you can actually search the Cordis database to be able to find other examples and see what UK museums or cultural and creative sector organisations have been successful in the past. And so we pulled out 3 here, and then Gosha and Sharon. Gosha's got some other examples from the ERC. Funding opportunities. So this example, Arches, was funded between 2016 and 2019. They got 3.3 million, and UK partners included University of Bath, the Open University, the Wallace Collection, and the V&A. And you can see here it's a really good range of sort of universities and museums, and the aim of this project was to work with people with disabilities to develop innovative tech solutions to get them to engage and access cultural artifacts. So this resulted in sign language video avatars being created, tactile artworks being created, and barrier-free apps and games being developed. And they actually, as a result of this, won the Best App Award in the Heritage Emotion Awards in 2020. And again, I think this is a really nice example of how a consortia from museums and university or cultural institutions can come together to meet some of these societal challenges or these cluster challenges that we see through the Horizon Europe, now the Cluster 2 programme. So, and if we can move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what opportunities are there then through Cluster 2 for the UK creative and cultural industries and sectors? So what's really good is, for the first time, cultural heritage and culture, and in particular the creative industries, have been embedded within the Horizon Europe programme, and the fact that there's a specific destination on this is really important. And again, we should be really, I think it just illustrates that all our awareness raising of the importance and the impact of these sectors has finally come around now. We can see dedicated funding for this area. So you can see here how this destination is aiming to address challenges related to climate change, and also access to heritage and creative industries, and the competitiveness of the creative industry sector as well, and also the role of cultural heritage and social cohesion. So they're really trying to address these large challenges that relate to the cultural and creative industries, and there's now specific funding available for these. So, and if we move to the next slide. So for this year, 2021, we've got 4 calls that are open. They opened earlier this year and they closed on October the 7th. And again, the themes of the call change will change over the 7-year period. But you can see here already that there's quite clear areas where the UK academics and UK cultural and creative sectors can work together with European partners to address these. So we've got a call that's open where they expect to fund 3 projects between 3.5 and 4 million euros in suggested budget, addressing green technologies. We've got another one to do with participatory management and financing of cultural institutions. One specifically to do with the competitiveness of the cultural and creative industries. And we've got a fourth one looking at digital cultural heritage and digital technologies. Now, I'll talk a bit more about these now. So, Annie? So the green technologies call is all about increasing the efficiency and minimizing environmental footprint of the cultural heritage sector. So looking at conservation and restoration, looking at the art world and the archaeological environment and built environment and museum collections as well. And for this particular call, they expect to see sort of small and medium-sized enterprises and businesses involved in this and working with our cultural institutions. So it's a really good opportunity here for a good mix of organizations, be it sort of universities, cultural institutions, charities, freelancers and businesses to work together here to address these challenges. And obviously it's very timely given COP26 later this year. Annie, next slide. The second call this year is looking at new ways of participatory management and sustainable financing of museums and cultural institutions. So obviously this is set within the context of the coronavirus pandemic and the new ways in which cultural institutions have had to adapt to provide access, but also sources of income. So for the UK, really, this is quite timely as it builds on the Boundless Creativity Report, which is a partnership between AHRC and DCMS, and also other work done within the UK, such as the Museum Association. And you can see here that they are looking at research which looks at new models of financing of cultural institutions, and actually really interestingly as well, new ways of participatory cultural management. So looking at considering the role of local museums, and they expect to see these sort of stakeholders involved in such bids, and actually they note young people in particular. So there's really good opportunities to work with educators here and educational charities. Move on to the next call. So this is one that specifically addresses the challenge identified around the competitiveness of the European cultural and creative industries. And again, in the UK, we can see this building on AHRC investments such as the Creative Clusters partnerships and the work of the Creative Industries Federation and Council. And here it's all about looking at the role of the creative and cultural industries and looking at it on an EU-wide scale, but thinking about are there new business models that could be developed, are there new skills development opportunities and distribution models that could be developed, and a real policy focus here in terms of outputs. Next slide. And the final call for this year, again, closing on October the 7th, is looking at digital heritage. So again, it's born digital heritage, but also digitalization of cultural assets as well. And again, it's thinking about the development of digital facilities that would support this and infrastructures. And again, this call requires collaboration between technological firms and universities and cultural creative sector organizations. And there is a note on this one that if you're using sort of satellite-based observation, they've got to use Copernicus, Galileo, which UK applicants are able to do as part of the agreement. But again, this particular call you can see building on AHRC investments such as towards national collection. I know a number of participants are involved in. Next slide. Again, we wanted to include another example with including a business as a partner, and you can see here this is called DigitArt. It was a 2015-2018 funded project, which was 2.3 million contribution from the EU, and it was looking at new tools to view and engage with artifacts using AR and VR technologies. And here, Liverpool John Moores University was the university involved, but there actually was a business, Vulcanab Limited, which are drone specialists. So they were brought in as part of the consortia to provide the necessary skills to be able to complement the other partners from across the UK and across Europe in order to address these challenges. Next. And as I said, we are going to be doing these sort of signposting events each year now to be able to bring the cultural and creative industry sectors together to hear from you and to signpost these opportunities. And we will focus on the 2022 opportunities at the next event, because these don't open until January next year. As you can see here, for the arts and humanities, there's a much broader range of opportunities that actually build on previous investments, such as the endangered languages, on also gaming, traditional crafts, and music. And obviously, there's given the threat of climate change, there's two specific opportunities there, one that relates to protection of artifacts and one that relates to climate change in relation to cultural heritage. And again, we'd like to see all the activity around COP26 build partnerships towards these opportunities. But again, we'll have a specific session on these towards the end of the year. I did put the work package link in the chat, and you can look at the full scope of these calls already there. Annie? So just to say, my final slide was around the opportunities beyond cluster 2. So again, today we are looking just at cluster 2 because that's where primarily the main opportunities are there for you all in the cultural and creative sectors. But across the other clusters, there are specific calls that may be of interest to you. So for example, there is a call within the cluster 3 around civil security, which is looking at trafficking cultural goods. Again, that call I believe is closing in November this year. There are calls within the cluster 4 around digital and industry, and again around innovation and media. So again, for those creative industries organizations, you might want to look at those ones. So again, we can, if you contact Annie, we could be able to signpost you to those. And then there are also more environmental opportunities. So again, thinking about the environmental humanities opportunities there, as well as social prescribing, where obviously in the UK there's been a lot of research and investment in this area. So I hope to see opportunities building on that experience as well. Annie?
Thank you, Jamie. I think that was a really good kind of overview of the opportunities that are available. And obviously there is a lot of more information available online, but also through me as the kind of contact point for the specific area. So don't hesitate to get in touch if you want any more details about anything really that's been covered so far. I'll just kind of wrap up our session with another kind of case study before the kind of final few slides. So Arts Formation is obviously another previous project funded by the EU with kind of 8 partners in total, and the UK partner is kind of FACT Liverpool, and they received 178,000 euros for their contribution towards the work of the project. So this specific project responds to a call in 2019 that asked to explore new forms of innovation with special emphasis on social innovation and creativity, and understanding how all forms of innovation are developed, succeed or fail. So yeah, Arts Formation project explores how the arts can contribute towards a kind of a more sustainable and inclusive digital future in Europe. So the project really aspires to kind of boost Europe's ability to use the arts in kind of tackling technological transformations, such as kind of data ethics and quality, artificial intelligence, unequal kind of participation opportunities in the digital economy, and others as well. So kind of through research on the kind of transformational capabilities of the arts, and also by involving kind of actors from many different sectors of society, the project aims to kind of mobilize the arts towards a kind of a better and more participatory digital world. So we had really another kind of another example of the wide range of kind of types of projects that are funded through the EU. I also kind of briefly want to mention another opportunity called, or this initiative is called the New European Bauhaus. And this might be relevant for some of you, so I will kind of just briefly talk through this. So the New European Bauhaus aims to shape a more beautiful, sustainable and inclusive forms of living together. So kind of a co-design phase for this initiative has been going on for a while, and we are expecting a policy document to be presented in September, so quite soon. There is also a kind of forthcoming funding opportunity related to this. So it kind of offers opportunities to engage with communities on this kind of transition, using architecture, design and culture as really like a kind of core resources for a sustainable society. So kind of, yeah, the funded projects will contribute to kind of the delivery phase of this New European Bauhaus initiative. And they kind of deploy mission kind of oriented pilot projects that will, yeah, they will act as kind of lighthouse demonstrators for this initiative. So yeah, if you're interested, again, this is obviously just a summary, so do get in touch if you'd like any more information. So yes, to wrap up, Cluster 2 does offer a lot of opportunities, and there are also a lot of resources where you can find kind of more information, like I've said. A good kind of first step that we normally kind of recommend if you do want to get involved is to kind of summarize your project idea. Obviously, it could be kind of a one-pager that you can kind of use to then search for kind of appropriate people to partner with. Also, in terms of finding partners, there are a lot of resources and support, and also actually including financial support. So I have kind of linked some financial support that could be useful for you if you are kind of on the kind of path of finding partners in Europe. And kind of obviously, like I said, applications are done online on the kind of funding and tenders portal. There are a lot of guidance documents for you to kind of find out how to actually apply. And really kind of finally, and really I think most importantly, what I want you to take away from this kind of short presentation is that there is support for you if you want to apply. So please do reach out to me as the national contact point if you have any questions or if you would like some help. So there's obviously a link on the side there, and I can also post it on the chat later on. There is also a network of kind of national contact points for the different areas that, for example, we've kind of alluded to. So there's always someone to support you. And there's also support services by the kind of European Commission as well specifically. But I think, yeah, that's it from us. Thank you a lot for listening. And that is my email address there on the slide if you kind of want to take that away and get in contact at all. But yes, I think if there are any questions at this point, I think we can probably tackle them now.
Yes, if we can either put questions in the chat or the Q&A option as well. So Annie, we have a question about the calls that closed this October. Will they be repeated later on in the framework period?
I think that's a good question. I would say we're not expecting kind of repeats kind of the exact same calls. But what I will say is obviously the challenges of, for example, digitalization of kind of cultural heritage, kind of inclusive access to cultural heritage, climate change and cultural heritage. I think those themes, I'm sure, will in some capacity repeat. And obviously, as a national contact point, I do have limited access to kind of knowledge in terms of what's coming up next, and we do get access to the drafts of kind of the next kind of lists of calls a bit in advance. So I can always, you can always reach out to me, and I can share with you what I know as well in terms of upcoming opportunities. But yeah, I don't think we expect exact repeats, but yes, kind of thematically, I think the challenges are kind of huge. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be opportunities to research in these areas still in the years to come.
Brilliant, thank you. That's in terms of immediate questions. I can't see any others. I think what we might do is take maybe a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back. Oh, so there's one thing that's just come in before we do that. Yes, so why is there more themes for the 2022 round? That's a good question.
That is a good question, and I think normally year on year there is a similar kind of amount of opportunities. This year specifically has been a little bit special because it's the first year of the new framework program, and I think it's there's been kind of a real hurry to get this new funding program kind of up and running. And if anyone has been following this area kind of earlier this year, there was quite a lot of delays in the summertime with kind of publishing these 2021 opportunities. So I think that's basically the reason. It's just the kind of timeline this year didn't really allow for the kind of normal and usual number of opportunities to be published. But yes, I'm expecting obviously from next year on, this new kind of framework program will be kind of really embedded in the systems, and opportunities should be they should keep within the same kind of limits in terms of number of opportunities in the years to come.
I think it works in our favour as well, because obviously there's not many weeks left until October the 7th. Obviously exactly. you've got to build your consortia and get all the all the required paperwork. So yeah, for us as a group of sort of stakeholders for Horizon Europe, it works well because it gives us time to work with you, our wider community, to signpost you to these opportunities, and especially the contacts you need to be contacting in order to look at or get ready for maybe the calls in year 2 or the subsequent years. And again, we really see this as a long-term thing. So we're not expecting to see a huge rush to October. I think we really want to work with you to make sure that you're confident enough and get your head around the vast range of opportunities here, because there's a lot to think about and a lot of opportunities to work with partners on, build partnerships.
Yeah.
So if we stop there for 5 minutes, I know there's a question that's coming, but I will stop there for 5 minutes if that's okay, and we'll come back and we'll hear from UKRI and also Innovate UK, and there'll be more opportunities for questions as well. So yeah, we'll see you sort of maybe 4 minutes to something like that. Yeah, 2 o'clock. So we'll get going with the next session. So yeah, in the first part you heard about the opportunities through Cluster 2. And Annie's the national contact point for that. So again, send all your questions to Annie. And next up, we've got 2 other opportunities as part of Horizon Europe. So first up, we've got Sharon McHugh from Innovate UK, and then we'll have Gosha from UKRI who'll talk about the ERC opportunities. So I'm going to hand over to Sharon, if that's okay. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Jamie. So good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Sharon McHugh. So I work for the global team at Innovate UK. Part of my role within that team is to act as a national contact point for the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, or the EIT for short. So today I'll just explain where the EIT sits within Horizon Europe, provide a general overview of the EIT and the Knowledge and Innovation Communities, or KICs for short, and then finally talk about the creation of a new KIC for culture and creative sectors. So as my colleagues have said, Horizon Europe is the EU's key funding programme for research and innovation with a budget of around 95.5 billion euros. So as part of Pillar 3, Innovative Europe, the EIT contributes to achieving 4 key strategic objectives. So they are strengthening sustainable innovation ecosystems across Europe, fostering the development of entrepreneurial and innovation skills, bringing new solutions to societal challenges to market, and then creating synergies and added value within Horizon Europe. So over the next 7 years of the programme, the EIT has a budget of around 3 billion euros. So the EIT is an independent body that was created in 2008 to strengthen Europe's ability to innovate. So its vision to become the leading European initiative that empowers innovators and entrepreneurs to develop world-class solutions to societal challenges and create growth and skilled jobs. So its mission is to drive innovation, increase European competitiveness, sustainable economic growth and job creation. So the EIT powers innovation by bringing together the knowledge triangle of education, research and business. So the knowledge and innovation communities, or KICs. So they form cross-border multidisciplinary partnerships which carry out activities from research to market. So they're helping to turn ideas into products, services and jobs, and delivering solutions to global challenges. So each of the 8 established KICs are dedicated to one of the societal challenges, so there will soon be 10. So they operate in the areas of climate change, digital transformation, energy, food, health, raw materials, urban mobility, and added value manufacturing. So each KIC is organised around 5 to 10 co-location centres, and they're intended to act as a geographical hub that provide a physical space for local interaction within that innovation ecosystem. So between now and 2026, there'll be 2 new KICs launched. So the KIC for culture and creative sectors and industries, I'll talk more about later, and then a second new KIC for water, marine and maritime ecosystems. So expect to launch a call for that KIC in 2025 and designate it in 2026. So each innovation community is an independent legal entity with its own management board and internal organisation structure. As I said on my previous slide, each community will focus on a specific societal challenge. So we have the opportunity with this new KIC to focus on culture and creative sectors. Each one will also have its own strategic objectives, business plan and governance. It's very much impact driven. So what are those economic and societal benefits? And then at the bottom of the slide, you can just see the funding model. So KICs over their life cycle are expected to become financially self-sustainable. So you'll see that the EIT funding rate decreases as you move through that life cycle. So to power innovation, Europe needs a pipeline of cross-cutting solutions, talent, and a nurturing environment. So this is precisely what the EIT delivers through Europe's largest innovation ecosystem. So they're providing opportunities for students, innovators, and entrepreneurs across Europe to turn their ideas into solutions for a greener, healthier, and more sustainable Europe. So as I said earlier, the EIT has a budget of 3 billion for the next 7 years to be distributed amongst its KICs to provide that entrepreneurial rapport, educational training, funding for innovators and innovation projects across sectors, and also business creation and acceleration services. So on this slide, you can see some of the impacts of the EIT and KICs. So you have 8 communities with around 2,000 partners involved. It's created around 13,000 plus jobs. It's got 60 innovation hubs across Europe, and it's brought nearly 1,200 products and services to market. And between now and 2027, it also aims to support further 700 more startups, train 20,000 students, and help commercialize 4,000 new products and services. Just very briefly, in terms of the UK, so there's around 150 partners that work within the KIC community. In 2019, the UK received around 32 million euros in grants, and 10 British startups were created, and 127 have been supported since 2027. So as I said earlier, this year we're seeing the launch of a new KIC for culture and creative sectors and industries. So from architecture to cultural heritage, performing arts, we can see that culture is at the very heart of Europe's identity, and the sector does play a crucial role in our society with high growth potential. So at the end of 2019, they represented 4.2% of the EU's GDP, and they employed around 7.4 million people. So in addition to generating that growth, being at the heart of Europe's identity, they create social cohesion by establishing a shared sense of history and culture. So these benefits, as well as the economic potential, means that the creative and cultural sectors are capable of delivering world-class solutions to those societal challenges. So why culture and creativity sectors have high growth potential? What we do find is they can often be diverse, fragmented, micro-sized in terms of organisation, and of course it's been hit extremely hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. So if the culture and creative sectors are to survive this crisis and better yet emerge stronger, then they need a long-term approach that aims to make the sector crisis resistant by addressing those root causes of unsustainability. So with this in mind, a new EU initiative which aims to support the sector was launched on the 21st of April. So it brings together that knowledge triangle of business, research and education. So the new KIC will prioritise the cultural and creative sectors, reduce fragmentation, build bridges, power new ventures, technologies and digitalisation, make the sector more resilient, more connected, and train the next generation of innovators. So 10% of the EIT's budget for 2021 to 27 will be dedicated to the new KICs. So that's for the cultural and creative sector and for the maritime KIC. So the EIT calls for proposals. There's lots of information on the website, and there is a link to that website in a later slide. But the aim is to launch the call for proposals in October, November this year, with a submission deadline of March next year, and then the new KIC will be designated in June 2022. So it's worth noting, if you are interested in putting together a consortium and proposal for the new KIC, in September there'll be the publication of the EIT innovation model paper, so that will help applicants to better understand the EIT model. So now really is the time to think about putting together a consortia and developing strategies where you think the biggest innovation potential in the culture and creative sectors lies. I'll briefly just go over the assessment criteria, but just to highlight a couple of things. So the EIT is not predefining the strategic sub-areas, topics or fields. It's been left deliberately broad. So there are kind of 4 key pillars around European creativity and cultural diversity, European identity and cohesion, European employment, economic resilience and growth, and Europe as a global actor. But beyond that, the focus is being left up to individual applicants and proposals. So you should be thinking about a proposal that is based on current priorities facing the sector, proposing a pan-European strategy to address those priorities, and include a convincing implementation plan and suitable KIC partnership to succeed. So in terms of evaluating, the overarching principles are going to be excellence and impact. So where is the biggest economic and societal impact going to be? And needs to be based on the EIT's impact framework. So when the core papers are released, there will be a template which will include clear definitions of those key performance indicators. I'll very briefly go over the evaluation criteria for proposals. So admissibility, so this isn't unique to the EIT, it's Horizon Europe generally. So proposals need to be submitted electronically, all mandatory parts completed and submitted by the core deadline. So consortium need to contain at least 3 independent partner organisations established in at least 3 different member states. There needs to be at least 1 higher education, 1 research institution and 1 business. And there's a maximum of up to 50 partners. So applicants also will be excluded if they're in one of the situations referred to under the EU financial regulation. So why this isn't an exhaustive list, it will focus on things like bankruptcy, fraud and money laundering. So the applicants will need to submit a declaration of honour on exclusion criteria and also an absence of conflict of interest. So they will all be templates as part of the core. So at the proposal stage, the coordinator will be asked to confirm that the organisation has carried out a self-check of financial capacity through the self-check tool, or that there has been covered by a financial viability check for a previous EU project. So operational capacity will look at the coordinator's familiarity with the core theme, their experience in innovation projects, and also the capability and experience of the management team, specifically the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Operating Officer, and Chief Financial Officer. So the technical evaluation is worth 100 points, split across excellence, quality, and impact, and you'll see they're weighted slightly differently. And the EIT will conduct the evaluation with the help of independent experts. So under excellence, experts will be looking at the added value of the strategic approach and the applicability of the KIC model to tackle that societal challenge via a multidisciplinary approach. So by integrating the knowledge triangle and fostering entrepreneurship and innovation. So they'll also be looking at innovation potential. So to implement the KIC strategy, so that's going to be demonstrated by the quality and commitment of the partners. So forming a diverse, balanced and collaborative partnership to improve the innovation capacity of local ecosystems, including through the regional innovation scheme. And then finally, under excellence, synergies, demonstrating the readiness to establish synergies and positioning of the KIC towards other relevant public, private and third sector initiatives. In terms of quality, operations will look at the relevance and quality of the management and governance plan, the effectiveness of the operational structure, including the selection and connectivity of co-location centres. And then finally, under quality, the feasibility of the future KICs business model and financial plan. So as I said, one of the fundamental things about KICs is that they move towards financial self-sustainability. So what is that long-term plan? What are the management plans and exploitation plans for intellectual property, as well as plans to generate other types of revenue? And then lastly, in terms of impact, that will be looked at in line with the EIT impact framework and key performance indicators, but you're really focusing on those societal impacts, technological, economic, innovative, and educational. It'll also be assessed about the comms plan, and particularly include in the contribution to the EIT community brand and identity. And then finally, the dissemination of results. So how are you going to share those results, share best practice beyond the KIC across EU member states, regions and institutions to ensure the maximum impact? So you need to get a threshold of 70% to get an invite to hearing of the EIT Governing Board. Again, the EIT Governing Board will assess against the lines of excellence, quality and impact. You can get a maximum of 30 points here. At the end of that presentation to the Governing Board, the average score of the Governing Board members will be added to the technical evaluation score, and then that proposal with the highest score can be designated as the new KIC. So if you are interested in putting together a proposal for this new KIC to help build your consortia, there's a networking platform that's available until the 21st of April. So you can connect with potential partners and either message them directly or by video conference. And as of this morning, there were around 460 registrants across 45 countries. So just to end, it's a really great opportunity to be part of setting up this KIC. If you are interested in putting together a proposal, the calls will open in October, November. You need to submit it by March, and on this slide you'll see links to the evaluation criteria and frequently asked questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Huge opportunities there for the UK cultural and creative sectors, and you can see how sort of that could build on investments such as the creative industries clusters and other networks that UKRI and AHRC have invested in over the past couple of years. And again, please direct any questions, even if you just got an idea or you sort of want to sort of think how your network or how your sort of partnerships could meet this once documents go out at the end of the year. Please get in touch with Sharon. Our last presentation today is the last sort of strand of sort of Horizon Europe, and again, this is the sort of the discovery-led research that, for those of you who are familiar with sort of AHRC, again, you might be familiar with and know how important this kind of discovery-led research is for our communities. And likewise, I know our cultural and creative sectors have taken advantage of the discovery-led opportunities through the European Research Council and Marie Curie actions. So it's really good to have Gosia today to sort of give us an overview of opportunities there are. So Gosia works as the European advisor at UKRI based in Brussels, and it's great to have you here today. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Jamie. Thank you for having us today. Warm welcome, everyone. It's great to be able to speak about very interesting opportunities to, I hope, new audiences. I hope there are some newcomers who will be now interested in applying. So my name is Gosia and I work at UKRI. So we are also part of UK Research and Innovation. And together with Innovate UK, we are based in Brussels, and we are Brussels office of UKRI. We work on a daily basis with our subscribers as well, who are in the UK. So most universities and research institutions subscribe to our services. But today I speak in our capacity as a national contact point for the ERC and Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions, and our services are available to anyone in the UK. We organize a lot of events and we reply lots of queries, so do get in touch with us, whether you are our subscribers or not. So in this moment, I will take you away from topic-driven funding under Pillar 2, so Cluster 2. We'll be talking also about something different than EIT. We will now be talking about funding coming from Excellent Science Pillar 1. which is very different and has very different objectives. And it's a very unique opportunity for funding for not topic-driven, not policy-driven research ideas. So both ERC and MSCA have dedicated work program for the next 7 years, and they both have dedicated budgets. So we are now, I'm not asking you to forget everything that Jamie and Annie were talking about, but we are moving away from this, idea that you need to address a specific topic that might appear only once during 7 years. And those opportunities that I will be talking about are slightly different. So let's start with the ERC. So the European Research Council, which was created under European framework programs back in 2007, actually in reply to research community requests of more flexible funding for individuals who were not finding collaborative projects and topic-driven funding schemes as appropriate for their research ideas. So the ERC was created to provide funding for more risky ideas, so high risk, high gain type of projects proposed by individuals, so principal investigators, who can come from anywhere in the world. And it was also an invitation from European Union for excellent researchers to come to Europe to do their research. And if I say Europe, it's of course also Horizon Europe associated countries. So the UK remains eligible to host fellows under ERC and Marie Curie, as explained earlier. So ERC is unique, based in this excellent science pillar, because the excellence, so the research potential of the principal investigator and the innovative research idea are the main and the only criteria really of evaluation of projects that are submitted, which of course makes the scheme very popular and very competitive. But also good news is that the UK is one of the top destinations for applicants, and I would like to even underline that even since the Brexit referendum, it has not changed. So the UK is very strong in the ERC and is hosting a lot of successful grant holders. For those who might not be based in academia, because we talked to different stakeholders today, this is really also our scheme open to non-academic sector. So any legal entity, and I will explain it in detail, is eligible to host those fellows in the UK. As I said, you are not requested to address any topics, and you can come with your own research project idea. It can be also based outside academic institution, because we do not have topics, but we have panels, and also the budget is distributed quite fairly. So the more applications given the panel receives, then the more funding would go into this specific discipline or field. In terms of practical information, so this is a very quite straightforward if we talk about EU funding scheme, because those grants are grants for principal investigators that are awarded under annual calls, and depending where you are in your research career since your PhD, in case of starting or consolidated grant, or where you are in your research career, if you are a leader, so over 10 years of research track record, if we talk about advanced grant. Depending where you are since PhD, you are eligible to apply for very generous grants. So as you can see, grants that would last up to 5 years, depending whether it's starting consolidated or advanced grant, you can get quite a significant amount of money. And synergy grant is quite unique scheme, because here you would need to have two principal investigators coming together to share the grant, because they also share a research idea. So as synergy grant, the name says itself, those projects are very multidisciplinary, that wouldn't be able for one single PI to get funded and to do the research under previously explained grants. And for previous grant holders, there's also additional scheme to help with commercialization or with exploitation of ERC projects results. So this is proof of concept, and I will not go into detail, but as you can see, this is quite a straightforward scheme. There are no topics, but when you apply, you need to tick your panel structure, and you apply to the main panel of your choice. Even if it's an interdisciplinary project, you would need to pick just one. And of course, with keywords, you can guide the ERC. Who else should be reading your proposal? Evaluators from which discipline should be best placed to understand your research idea. And of course, this is a grant for a principal investigator, but you do not apply as an individual person. You always need a legal entity that you apply with, so-called host institution. And the host institution can be in any sector, so it can be university, but it can be business, it can be a company, it can be any non-academic institution as well. It's not part of the evaluation process. So only research idea and the potential of the principal investigators are being evaluated. So the host is really chosen by the principal investigator, and it also can change. So if during 5 years the principal investigator would need to move somewhere else, this grant is portable. And the UK as associated country to be is of course eligible to host and to provide support and infrastructures to ERT grant holders. And normally at the application stage, we would work closely with your host institution to be successful. They would support you with costing your project budget and putting the proposal together. And once you are successful, it would be the host institution that would officially sign the grant agreement with the ERC and would help you manage the budget. So the principal investigator is employed by the host institution, and they help and support the PI in delivering the project. But in terms of the research, this really principal investigator who's got the full freedom to run the research and to win the project, you really need to have this novel idea that would really require a significant budget and bottom-up approach. So normally it would be really your own personal idea, and it's not a proper scheme for collaborative grants. And so it's not institutions that work together, even if you might have some team members based elsewhere. So here's just to show the structure. So there is the principal investigator who's really leading the collaborators, so the team members. And here the ERC is very flexible. So you could really have a PI working with a very small team, all based in the same institution, or you can imagine quite complex setups with people working with the PI and being based elsewhere in other institutions in the same country or elsewhere in the world. And here another flexibility, another uniqueness of the ERC, that even if those people will be based in countries outside countries that are eligible for funding, the ERC grant would cover the cost. So you can have someone in the US working with you on the ERC grant, and their participation would be eligible. So it's quite big. But in practice, and I hope maybe we have some people in the room who have had some experience with the ERC, so please share your experience in the chat. But here, just to give you an example, how it could look, what you can do with the scheme. So this is the consolidator grant with the main principal investigator based in France. But as you can see, the team is quite big, very multidisciplinary, and bringing together more junior and senior researchers working together under her leadership. And in the UK, it's the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford that is hosting most of team members. So as you can see, this is quite an interesting setup, but we could imagine even more organizations involved if this would be necessary for the project. In terms of the topic, because they are bottom-up, they can really, and they are very, very varied, as you can imagine. But this one, as you can see, is quite unique. It's about research around color in literature, art, science, technology throughout Europe. So it would be hard to imagine that this kind of project would ever get funded in this form under collaborative projects under Cluster 2 work program, because it's quite unique. And I hope you will get the chance to visit the project website, which is really interesting, and also the Cordis database that Jamie mentioned before provides all of the information. And if you are nearby, you might even attend the final exhibition that is planned, I think, for the next, there's an exhibition planned for next year in Oxford. So you might have a chance to meet the researchers involved in this project yourself. So I hope this gives you an idea, but more inspiration is available in European Research Council database, where you can search for projects per panel, so very specific panel, call year and country and so on. So it's really a very robust place for inspiration to see what has been funded before. And in the UK, there are so many ERC grant holders that it's never a problem for us as the institute to find great case study speakers. So all our webinars, which I would like to encourage you to attend, would normally have great speakers, people who are very happy to share their experience. And then just a few words maybe about funding. So ERC grants are have the same structure of the budget that large collaborative projects. So the budget is based on the estimated costs, and you need to report all actually incurred costs. And the budget is divided into usual categories. So most of it usually personal costs, but any type of costs, any type of equipment, travel, and so on that you might require for your research would be eligible. So there are no limits. And really in ERC projects, I've seen a lot of unusual costs, including, traveling by planes to very remote places for field work and so on. So they are very flexible, and they really, everything is possible once you get the grant. But for the host institution, good news is that to manage the grant and to support the PI, there is always a 25% of the indirects on the top of direct costs. So this is for the host institution hosting the PI. And the ERC is unique also because they have annual work programs. So we already have the annual work program for the 2022. The last call under 21 will close this month, and so it's too late to think about it. But for the next year, it's still enough time to put the proposals together. We've just had our webinars on Synergy Grant round, and we are soon hosting more events. I hope you will join us, because we, as I said, usually have great guest speakers as well. And usually we talk like about 2 days, just on one call. So I had to be very brief today. And I will now move on to Maria Skłodowska-Curie action. So Jamie, if I start to overrun too much, just stop me, please. But Maria Skłodowska-Curie actions actually are much more complex in terms of technicalities than ERC. And it's again, a very unique, different scheme. So it is under excellent science, so to get like ERC. So again, it's not driven by policy priorities and by particular topics. So we have this bottom-up approach with a dedicated evaluation panel for social sciences and humanities and arts. I know that terminology in EU programs is sometimes not accurate enough. So don't be off-put if you don't hear art or a specific field that you feel that should be mentioned, but it's really open to anyone in this sector. And also, if we talk about industry or non-academic sector, we always have in mind everyone who is in this room, in this event today. So you are all eligible and welcome in this as well. So what's MSCA about? So MSCA is, as the entire Horizon and ERC, about funding the research. So research projects are getting funded, but on top of this, it's really a place where the funding is also going to support researchers' career development opportunities. So training, secondments, anything that would boost skills of fellows is eligible under budget. So it's very unique. And actually, to be successful in MSCI, you always need to have a research project and then career development project for the participants. So it's very different to other schemes on the Horizon. When we hear MSCA, we always think about mobility. So this is really a place where Horizon Europe supports mobility of researchers across different countries within Europe and globally, but also mobility across sectors. So again, non-academic and academic sectors working together is one of the features in any form it can take. So depending on the discipline of the project. Okay, so I think these are the main highlights. So in practice, we don't have enough time to go into detail, but in practice, under MSCA budget, every year there are annual calls for those 4 types of projects. Let me start with MSCA postdoctoral fellowships, which is the easiest one. It's like, let's say, a smaller in scale ERC, because there's one individual postdoctoral researcher hosted at the institution, either in Europe or somewhere in the world, and then coming back to Europe, doing the research together with the host institution and supervisor. But the scale here is different. So the grant is usually around 200,000 euros for the project duration, and they are also shorter. So we can't directly compare them to the ERC, but in terms of technicalities, this is the scheme also for individuals with a PhD who look for funding for their own projects. And otherwise, under MSCA, you will also find a call for proposals for consortium-based projects. So you would again need, like in cluster 2 consortia, at least 3 organizations from 3 different countries, but usually projects involve more organizations. And together with those organizations, you could under point 1, you could organize and put together a doctoral network. So put together research projects run by PhD candidates recruited across different participating institutions. And I will show an example of that. Or you could, like in the last point, organize a network of organizations where you don't recruit new researchers, but you have collaborations with different organizations, so non-academic and academic, from non-academic and academic sectors, placed in Europe and elsewhere in the world, if this is what you want to do. And you would be able to organize secondments between 1 and 12 months for those individuals, so that they work together on the research project, but there is mobility across the consortium. And then I won't go into detail, but the MSCA is also supporting funders, whether regional, national, or sectoral, who run or want to run new doctoral fellowship programs, and about 50% of the entire cost would be co-funded under the scheme. And it can be both funding for PhD fellows or postdocs. That's why it's called co-fund. And as the addition, every year there is a big event, and I hope you've heard of it, European Researchers' Night, organized across Europe and beyond sometimes, if it's virtual, where organizations celebrate science through public outreach events, and we always have those events co-funded in the UK as well. So I hope some of you might have heard of it, and we will have it later this year as well. In terms of practicalities, before I show you some examples, so you've seen the different schemes that are targeting researchers at different stage of their career. that can do different type of projects. But in terms of budget, MSCA project budget is based on very different logics than collaborative projects described under ERC. So here, because it's about people moving around or being employed for certain amount of time, we are operating with predefined unit costs. So based on number of person months and number of people employed or sent on secondments within the project, the table will self-calculate the budget for you. So part of budget here in green would go towards the researcher. So will constitute the salary. And you cannot pay researchers less, they always pay more, but this is the absolute minimum, or will support the secondment. And then there is a dedicated part of the budget for institutions managing the project, for organizing training events, doing research and so on. So this is a very different financial structure, but it's very simple, and we run a lot of events. Okay, so now let me show you an example. So to understand what you can do with those opportunities. So here, let's start with the postdoctoral, what will be called under Horizon Europe postdoctoral fellowship. Under previous Horizon 2020 program, it was called the individual fellowship. And just a few weeks ago, we hosted an event for private sector to promote MSc opportunities. And we had a very nice case study by a fellow who will start in September this year, Sven Andersson. And as you can see, Sven Andersson has chosen to come to the UK. I think he's now based in Ireland, in Dublin. And his project will be based in a non-academic sector. So the host, I think in London, it's a non-profit organization doing different projects. So I would recommend the website. And the fellow will be based and employed there for 2 years, but has got academic links with university in the UK, in Denmark, and I think also in Switzerland. So there will be some field trips, study trips over there as well. And of course, this was permitted under FFH panel. And the topic here is the research is very interesting, and I would recommend you watching the last part of our webinar when he explained what his research will be about. But it's about the sound interdisciplinary design in teams required in order to integrate consideration of sound within the design of public spaces. And I'm sure it will be a very interesting project that will start actually this year. So it's a very fresh example. And now another example. Doctoral training. So here we have example from the previous program, but it will be exactly the same under Horizon Europe, where you have a consortium. Here you have 6 organizations acting as beneficiaries. They put together a doctoral training program, designed the research content, and once they were successful, they have recruited 13 PhD fellows who are hosted, employed across those 6 institutions in different countries. And they and each of the fellow, they have their own PhD research project. Of course, they work as a network. They have networking activities. They normally would meet, probably now it's all online, but they have summer schools and so on. So this is all coming together. It's divided in different work packages, and it all comes together as one research project. And the fellows also have opportunities, in this case, worldwide, as you can see. There are 14 non-academic or sometimes academic partners responsible for training, additional training, and secondment. So placement in creative culture sector are possible in this case. So for the UK part of the project, and again, I would encourage you to have a look at the website. There are 3 fellows that are hosted in the UK. So 2 are based at the University of Glasgow at one of the institutes and the museum at the university. And there's 1 fellow in London, in a non-academic organization. but with supervisors from German university and mentors from creative industry sector in the UK. So those fellows are really very lucky because MSc doctoral training programs are very attractive. They usually offer great secondment opportunities, exposure to academic, non-academic sector. Plus, usually there is supervision provided from different countries or different sectors. Here I think that the project itself is around public memory and different angles, different projects, so it's all very interdisciplinary as well. And it's still ongoing, so I would encourage you to visit the website. And then the last example, which was born not easily, because I remember it was the resubmission. So Professor Mel Jordan, who was leading this project, was unsuccessful first, but then was in touch a lot with us as well. She was successful, and she was in our case study in one of the events. So she, together with her partners, in 9 countries in Europe plus 1/3 country, put together a program, a very complex program, involving in practice loads of secondments of early stage researchers, so PhD students going on secondments from academia to non-academic institutions. And as you can see from culture and creative industries, plus also a group of experienced researchers, well-established researchers are involved in the project. So this is a mix. And in terms of UK participation, there are, apart from a coordinator based in the UK, there are other 5 organizations, academic, non-academic, who are involved in secondment and the research activities. I hope it is an inspiration as well for some of you. In terms of topics, really, it's, I know for you it's very interesting, but you could imagine any type of topic here under this construction and this setup. And not all projects need to be that large. So 27 partners is a lot. So it can be much smaller, and it's then easier to manage as well. But the choice is always up to applicants. In terms of more inspiration, more information, as Jamie mentioned, all projects are in Cordis database. But I could not mention UKRI's website, which is the website supporting mobility of researchers across Europe and worldwide, which is part of MSCA in terms that all projects that are recruiting someone as part of the grant need to advertise the vacancies here. So if you're a researcher looking for opportunities, you can find vacancies here. Or if you would like to attract a candidate to submit proposal, let's say with postdoc, then you can also advertise your hosting offers. So this is very useful. And the good news is that we will have 7 years of the program. It's up and running. We are very busy with queries, so we are hopeful that there will be a lot of UK applications again. Just to give you an idea, 25% of all postdoctoral fellowships are submitted with UK hosts. So it's a lot of applications with host institutions. And I would like to invite you to our webinars, of course, and I hope I have not overrun too much. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gosia. Again, you hopefully can see the variety offered there through the discovery-led research route is fantastic, and just a sample of some of the success that our cultural and creative sectors have had going down those routes. So we've got about 10 minutes now for final questions and comments. And again, please either use the chat function or the Q&A. I've seen one comment or question and comment that's come in from Barney from Historic England, talking about their experience from ERC projects and saying that they require very significant support in terms of financial management and audit. And the question is, would UKRI advise that partnerships include a larger organisation that can provide support or have they been unlucky? So I'm not sure, Gosha, whether sort of your sort of experience with ERC, whether that is the case, that it's best to have a larger organization sort of acting as the coordinator and supporting the smaller organizations, or what?
Yes, I'm happy to comment on that. So, as I showed you, the ERC grants are quite large. So they can be, in terms of management, easily compared to a collaborative project. So even though they are mono-beneficiary grants, if the PI has got ambitious, crazy ideas and a lot of activities are happening in different places, it can get quite complex. But I would say, I hope it was just a unique case, because most organizations really manage the ERC grants okay. We get a lot of queries also regarding implementation. But I think the key is to understand the rules of the grant agreement, understand also audit requirements at the end of the project. And once you know it in advance, I think it's manageable. Of course, it is easier for an organization that has had hosted 50 ERC grants before, but even if you do it for the first time, there is this part of the budget that you can spend on, admin, on training for yourself as host institution. So hopefully to help, and we always happy to meet with a successful team. If you win ERC grant for the first time, we're happy to explain you how to manage it properly. But also the ERC project officers are usually great and very flexible, and even if something is changing from the project, they offer amendments to the grant agreement and so on. But yes, you always ask for any EU funding or public funding. You need to have a proper financial management system to be able to, to deal with responsible audits. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think that point about UKRI have provide sort of not just signposting events and engagement events, but there are for your subscribers, you do often do sort of more detailed sort of sessions about technical aspects, whether it's to do with the proposal form, or whether it's to do with the grant management, don't you?
Yes, absolutely. So today it was just, a nutshell, but normally we would spend one session, like 2 hours, just talking about submitting the form and how to complete the budget section and what is eligible and what not. And also on our website, you can find recordings for webinars where we invite commission's auditors when they talk few hours about what audit would involve. So there's a lot of resources available. So maybe it's just bad luck that someone wasn't aware of the support.
Yeah, I think beyond the people here today to help you all, there's also KTN and also the British Academy as well do events linked to particular elements, whether it's sort of technical elements or these broader signposting events. So yeah, there's a lot of stakeholders here who really want to help these communities and help you all to sort of take advantage of these amazing opportunities. Are there any sort of other questions or comments? Just to reaffirm as well, I think Annie put in the chat that we will be again sharing a recording afterwards and also the slides as well, so you'll be able to access all the links that have been put in these slides. And I think one of the takeaway things from today is, even if you just remember who to go to if you've got advice, I think that is really important. And then you can go back and work your way through all the documentation and links afterwards. But we really wanted to, so at the start of this Horizon Europe journey, to be able to sort of put names to faces and to know who to go to depending on what route you want. And I think another comment to make is around is there demand from our European partners? And I think the answer is certainly yes, is that obviously these are consortia-based applications. And again, in my role working sort of in AHRC, working with German colleagues or Irish colleagues or Dutch colleagues, sort of there is a lot of demand to work with colleagues in the UK, whether they're sort of academics or whether they're from cultural institutions, charities, freelancers or businesses. So don't think there's not that demand to work with from the Europe side. There is a lot. Again, we mentioned mentioned today some of the brokering options there are to link up. Again, if you've got any other ideas that you think we could all support you on to broker partnerships, I think would be great to hear that. And I think if there's no more questions, I think just to reiterate, this is the start of the 7-year framework. We want to have these dialogues. We will be continuing these conversations. It's great to be able to bring all parts of UKRI relevant to the cultural and creative industry sector together today, and working closely with DCMS, which is fantastic to bring you all here. And again, we'll be working next on an event that will sort of showcase the 2022 calls that open in January in terms of the cluster 2 ones, but also again repeating the opportunities to do with ERC and Marie Curie, and also by then sort of again we'll learn more about we'll know more about the EIT route as well. I think that's it. Annie, have I forgotten anything?
No, I think that was quite a good wrap up really to the session, and I think from my side really I just want to thank everyone who kind of came today. I think it was nice to see quite a lot of attendees kind of coming and hearing about these opportunities today, which is I think really nice. And kind of I think like Gosia and Jamie have already kind of mentioned, I'm very happy to kind of really provide quite kind of tailored kind of advice and support to you as well. So if you do have a specific question to your kind of situation and what might be a good kind of funding opportunity for you, or how to access that, always kind of happy to receive kind of emails, or we can arrange a chat as well virtually. So and even in terms of kind of funding partners, if you are kind of struggling to kind of create the networks in Europe, I have contacts in the different countries. So really kind of any type of support I can provide if you are interested in applying.
And at that point around support, Annie, is quite important, because for those of you who work or submit applications to UKRI or AHRC, you know, sort of we're quite limited in what and how much we can support you at the pre-application stage. It's not the same with these calls you've heard about today. Sort of Annie, Gosha and Sharon can do a lot more than sort of just guide you to a particular piece of policy document like sort of what we can do in the Research Council. So there's a lot more support there for you. So please pick up the phone or drop an email, and again they can do a lot more than sort of we could usually do if you're applying through our usual routes. Thank you very much, everybody. Again, really great to see so many people attend today on a day in August. We really appreciate that. And again, thanks Neil, thanks Christopher, thanks DCMS, thank UKRI colleagues. And hope to continue the discussion. See you hopefully in person soon. Yeah.
True.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.